Welcome to Mindshock. This is your host, Bruce McGuire, and this is part 5 of Tim Pool's Culture War so-called debate on Flat Earth. Logical Analysis Part 5. This is hopefully gonna be the finale. I mean, there was just so much goofery to break down here with Ferguson here. I mean, I think he might be my pick for the absolute worst flat earth debater in history. I haven't had a chance to review someone sent me a link to Craig of Fight the Flat Earth debate, where supposedly Craig denied the possibility of his own position in debate, but I've actually never seen that, and Ferguson committed that here, where he denied the possibility of his own position. I mean, I'm still laughing about that. Just the gopher of Ferguson here is so off the charts. Oh man. Okay, so welcome everybody here. We got some usual suspects here. Justin Johnson, Saddlebaum, Big Pine Sailing. Welcome. Plenty more to dissect here. We're going to try not to go off on tangents about the so-called final experiment or anything else. We're going to focus on the so-called debate here. And Sungenis, Tim Pool, Ferguson, Austin Witsit, and primetime Alex Stein. Alex Stein actually hasn't said that much, but hopefully he'll chime in more so we can break down. We can break more down here with a variety of personalities chiming in here. As always, if you want to help support the Mindshock podcast, help logic and reason return to a world where it is quickly going extinct, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. You can also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Help support the channel that way. Or become a patron. Patrons who get priority for case topic logical analysis, co-podcaster requests. You could also be a guest on the podcast depending on your tier. Make sure you're subscribed here, the Bruce McGuire channel, the home of Mindshock. If you're not getting notifications, you can also become a free patron and get all the notifications through Patreon. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. Or if you are with us live in the live chat, I'll try to get to all of them. I mean, something that keeps coming up in the chat and everywhere, I mean, I don't know how much I can dumb this down further. A logical fallacy cannot be committed if there is no argument. You could watch the Craig Utterly Ruins Himself video here on Mindshock, where Craig basically counted in his so-called Mindshock analysis, or whatever he called it. He basically counted the amount of times he didn't understand what a fallacy or argument was. Because I'm not committing a fallacy if I'm not claiming anything is true or untrue about a certain argument or position. For example, Ferguson might be accidentally correct about his model of the universe. I'm not commenting on any conclusions here. I'm only pointing out the logical fallacies. It's not a fallacy to point out a fallacy. If I am claiming that because he committed the fallacy he's wrong, that would be a fallacy. That'd be a fallacy. Aptly titled, but that's not what I'm claiming. For whatever reason, you know, brain dead goofs like Craig, or there's no shortage of these goofs in the comment section. Just off the charts, Dunning-Kruger. I mean, I don't know how that could be dumbed down any further. I really don't. If anybody has any ideas out there. I mean, if you don't know what an argument is, then you're not going to know what a fallacy is. I mean, it's just, that's kind of a prerequisite. So because so many people are not even on a preschool level, they don't have the prerequisites to even be discussing logical fallacies. But if nobody has any questions about the previous parts, we'll jump right in here for what will hopefully be part 5, the thrilling conclusion of this so-called debate. Tim Pool's Culture War on Flat Earth.
okay? And you got some other constellation, the Bear and Cassiopeia and all that around. And then on the southern, you have near the South Pole, you have Octans, Mesmos, there's several other constellations there.
Cross.
Okay? Yep. So if the Earth is flat now, how are you going to incorporate those southern stars that in the globe model take up a whole hemisphere? Okay? How are you going to put them into the flat Earth model that only has a dome, does not have a sphere, it only has a hemisphere? How are you going to fit those stars in there?
Yeah,
from the south?
Well, I mean, they could actually be embedded into the firmament itself. But what I actually think is...
What?
Yeah,
What did you say?
They could actually be inside of layers within the firmament itself.
Well, we don't see them.
What do you mean?
This was actually hilarious. Austin is saying that the stars could be embedded in the dome, and Sungenis says we don't see them. And Austin is dumbfounded by the gophery that Sungenis just spewed. We don't see the stars? Of course we see the stars. Nobody's denying that stars, you can see stars, or what we call stars, lights in the sky. Austin is so dumbfounded, because, like, look at Austin. He can't believe that Sungenis just said that. We don't see them. Now, whether the firmament exists, whether it's layered or not, whether the stars are in the layers or a single layer, clearly you see the stars. Now, what Sungenis said, we don't see them, it's kind of hard to understand. Like, that level of gophery is pretty substantial. I mean, that's like Ferguson level gophery here that Sungenis just sank to. He's been hanging out here talking to Ferguson for too long. That's something Ferguson would say. Because... does he mean we don't see the layers of the firmament? Well, if the firmament isn't something we can see, if it's glass or energy or whatever, clearly we can't really see the firmament. So why would you see layers of the firmament? None of that makes any sense, if the firmament is even real. I mean, look at Austin. I can't believe that Sungenis just said something that stupid. Because, I mean, what is he referring to? He's either referring to we don't see the stars, or we don't see the layers of the firmament, as if we see the firmament but not the layers of the firmament? Can anybody understand the level of gophery that Sungenis just spewed here? I mean, this is Craig level gophery. This is Ferguson level gophery. I mean, look at Austin's face. He's bewildered that Sungenis said something. It's like, we don't see them, we don't see the stars. What do you mean we don't see the stars? Oh, this is tough. This is really tough. I mean, I can't guarantee this. We're going to get done with this just because we go from Ferguson denying the possibility of his own possession to Sungenis saying that we either don't see stars or we don't see layered firmament. What is he talking about? Does anybody have any idea what Sungenis is talking about here? Wow. I mean, that's tough. Big Pine Sailing says, fallacious arguers incorrectly call out fallacy when you call them out on their fallacies. Yeah, it's incorrect for a level of multiple reasons. One, that's actually a tu quoque qui fallacy, to basically say, no, you're committing a fallacy by exposing another's fallacy. So not only are they doubling up on that fallacy, but they're also, only if you're claiming they're wrong about their conclusion because of the fallacy, would that be a fallacy. And a fallacy does not invalidate their own fallacy. So even if it is a fallacy to I mean, it just, the level of gopher is just, it's off the charts. I mean, and that's what's so triggering to all these people. The reason, I talked about this before too, the reason they're so triggered about fallacies being called out is because they can't cower behind opinions. They can't cower and say, oh, that's your opinion, you're entitled to. No, it's objective. Logic is objective. It objectively exposes their mental deficiency. That's why goofs like Craig and all these people, they spiral. Soy Lodge, they absolutely spiral because there's no room for them to cower behind opinions or simply state it's just a difference of opinion. Or whatever, whatever other copes they have. Alright, so let's try to continue here with Sungenis, who's saying we either don't see stars or we don't see a layered firmament. As if we would be expected to.
Oh, you mean from the
I
north?
have to travel.
So you're asking why I can't see them.
Here to the bottom to see those stars.
Yeah, I mean, this is a
So
pretty...
how could they be embedded in the northern hemisphere?
No, well, I just meant the firmament itself, but I misunderstood your question. It's a pretty simple answer, right? It's like the same reason that street lights look like they're going down. So in the globe paradigm...
What do you mean?
So if I look at a long street, the street lights are all 10 feet tall, but they're going to look like they're going down.
So you're going to give me the perspective argument.
Well, that's
correct?
What it is.
How? How does
because
that
the way we...
What is Sungenis doing here? Is he trying to... Did he feel bad that Ferguson here was capturing the Dunning-Kruger crown? He decided to just go for that crown? Is that what's going on here? Because... Okay. So... He was talking about stars, if they're embedded in the firmament... You don't see them depending on where you are in the world. I guess that's what he meant. And then he says, oh, you're giving me the perspective argument? Like, how dare you invoke reality? How dare you invoke the very basic concept that if you're in a giant warehouse and there are lights in the ceiling that are thousands and thousands of miles away from you, you wouldn't see them. You would see different lights. You'd see lights above you or near you. You wouldn't be able to see infinite lights forever. So the level of gift... And look at his face. He seems genuinely confused. I don't know if this is an act here. I don't know if he's playing... It doesn't appear that he's playing stupid. He genuinely seems to not be able to comprehend that you wouldn't be able to see forever. I guess the mental capacity is just not there to comprehend that the human eye is not capable of seeing forever. Here's a really easy test someone can do to test your eyesight. Put a dot on a piece of paper and hang the paper on the wall across the room from you. Like a large, a nice, decent-sized room, not a small closet. Now, because if you can't see that dot, does that mean the dot's not there? I mean, how much, we have to dumb this down to such a level of basic concepts. I mean, Sungenis is supposed to be a reasonable guy, right? I mean, if he's smart enough to understand the issues with heliocentrism, the Copernican principle, just basic scientism issues, but he doesn't understand that the human eye can't see forever? Wow. He doesn't understand basic geometry? That depending on the height of the stars and the distance from you and the distance between the continents. I mean, again, this is why I recommend anybody interested in any of this stuff, check out the program Stellarium, and you can view constellations from anywhere on Earth. And you'll see all of this. This is very basic. Now, that doesn't mean the Earth is flat, but if it were flat, it would still work the same way with the constellations in the sky. Most of this stuff, not necessarily all of it, but everything that they're discussing.
We actually made these measurements is we actually looked at Polaris and we took an elevation angle to Polaris and we had a horizontal baseline that goes all the way to the zenith underneath Polaris. Now on a globe, obviously you can't extend a horizontal baseline hundreds of miles. And then what we did was went back a little further, the angle changes Again, flat Earth measurement. The Earth measures flat. To even make the globe model, you had to make flat Earth measurements to get the latitude system. So basically, the perspective causes the star to drop down, just like the street lights, and you keep on making those angle measurements. What they then did was take those angle measurements that change based on your distance, and they put it into a spherical coordinate system. So,
oh, wait a minute. If the stars come out at night, all the stars come out at night at once.
This is actually where we stopped. I had to stop it last time. The stars all come out at once. Oh man. What is it? I don't know. Did he smoke something before this stream? Look at his face. Is he on something? Is he on something? I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, they're not spread out over time.
yeah.
And we only see the northern constellations.
Yeah.
We don't see the southern constellations.
Until you go further south. Right? I mean, you don't even have to go all the way to the
No,
east.
if I went on a flat Earth to the edge, I still wouldn't see them.
Wow. Okay, he's coming for Ferguson's crown here. How would you... Hold on a second. So he's saying, if the Earth were flat, and you went to the edge, if Antarctica is the outer ice wall or whatever, you wouldn't see the Southern Cross from Antarctica on a flat Earth model with Antarctica being the encircling ice wall? I don't know what to do with Sungenis here. I mean, he's sunk to Craig Ferguson levels. I don't mean Craig Ferguson, the late night host. He's actually pretty cool. Craig/Ferguson, the goof here. What's this goof's name? Is it Scott Ferguson? Let me double check. I didn't even... I mean, I don't know. He's not really important enough to remember his name. But, let's see. I think it might have been Scott Ferguson. Yeah, it was Scott Ferguson. Yeah. So, and then Craig of Fight the Flat Earth. I mean, these are bottom of the barrel goofs here. Bottom of the barrel. Okay. Flat Bob in the chat says, how did I not get a notification? Are you at least subscribed to the free Patreon? You can get your notifications through Patreon. They should work, unlike YouTube's. So, Sungenis here. Sungenis here is saying that even if the Earth were flat, you still wouldn't see the Southern Cross by walking or whatever, getting further across the plane. So again, the level of goofery displayed by Sungenis here is reaching record levels. Again, if you're in some kind of flat warehouse, there's different lights in the sky. If you walk from one end of the warehouse to the other, you're going to see the other lights. I mean, this ain't rocket science. Sungenis has just... Oh, man, this is... How is Austin Witsit still... I mean, I don't understand how he does this. I mean, I really don't. I mean, this is like talking to the mental midget toddler. I mean, is Mike Tyson really going to box toddlers? Is he really going to throw punches at them? I mean, I don't know. I don't know how Austin does this.
What?
You can go to any point on the Earth in that circular disk, and you still won't see the southern celestial stars.
Well, the stars are spinning, and as they come over top of you in your south, which they're actually more stretched out than in the north, and you can actually see them from a greater distance away than in the north, which is a major problem. I mean, you can see more constellations from a greater distance in the north and the south, which should be symmetrical.
There should be some place on your disk where I can see octans.
Yeah, it's just the stars are above us.
Where am I going to see it?
Out south is just away.
South.
It's away from north.
Okay, well.
What's the difference?
Tim, because we're running out of time, I want to get your guys' perspective or your reasoning.
So Sungenis just said, "Oh well," and smiled. Like, is that appeal to incredulity? Like that was just waving the white flag? You simply walk further from the middle, just like if you're in a giant warehouse. You see the lights above in the middle of the warehouse, and then if you walk further away from the middle, you'll see the lights on the outer edge of the warehouse. I mean, this ain't rocket science, but I think Sungenis just folded like a lawn chair there. He didn't even attempt to rebut such a basic concept. And Austin was a little bit confused earlier. Like, you could hear him say, "What?" Like, it's like he's in disbelief of the level of goofery that Sungenis sunk to. Because, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Man, this is just so tough. Between Sungenis and Ferguson here, this might be the toughest so-called debate yet.
June 8th, the day that the Earth is 99% lit by the sun. How is that possible?
Because you are interpreting that wrong. We went over this.
No, I'm not interpreting it wrong. Austin, please tell Tim.
Well, that's
that he's wrong.
population. He's talking.
Yeah, see?
Yeah, but it is
Yes.
like it is roughly 65% of the physical sphere in actual
65%.
light.
You can only light, if it's a ball, you can only light 50%.
That's
of it.
because they're counting astronomical twilight.
No,
as
no,
counting as sunlight.
it's
They
not.
are.
It's,
Right,
that's
yes.
not the only thing, though. That's not the only thing that makes it go over 50%. So, what's your argument for why it goes over 50%? It's not only astronomical twilight.
Well,
That's
astronomical
patently wrong.
twilight is the first
Basically
twilight
dark.
that happens.
Yeah.
It's basically dark. You need a telescope just to
Okay.
see it.
It's
and that
the
is
same
that is
reason
the
you see
furthest
the moon
extent.
with a glow on it.
Yeah.
Okay, it's filled the whole moon, and then you see a glow around the moon.
Yeah, that sounds like a.
You see a glow around the moon. And it's funny, too, because goofs like Ferguson, they think they could just regurgitate a catchphrase. Like a post hoc catchphrase. And as if that, like, obviously it could explain it, but it's as if they use the catchphrase as a catch-all. So any kind of anomaly, it could all be explained with this post hoc fallacy catchphrase. And look at the religious reverence they have for it. I mean, it's just, again, without verifying the latitudes and the relation, because again, I talk about this all the time. Maybe this should be the number one thing to be discussed in Flat Earth. Maybe it should be. If you haven't verified the distances and positioning of the continents from each other and in relation to Antarctica, what do the latitudes really give you? What do they give you? In the previous episode, I played the clip of the Southern Cross from above the equator. Like, I think it was over 1,000 miles above the equator. So not just a couple miles, over 1,000 miles above from the Cayman Islands. So, again, just the level of goofery. And look at the religious reverence from this so-called geocentrist who supposedly understands scientism, yet falls for it. Yet he falls for all of these scientism tenets that are used to argue against flat Earth, but he doesn't fall for the scientism tenets used to argue against geocentrism. Quite curious, is it not? So is this purely a case of ego, where Sungenis just can't handle that Austin Witsit has a better grasp on everything science related? I mean, is that all this is? Is that really all this is in relation to Sungenis?
Local light source. But what I want to know is, like, you're going to claim the lights. You have to claim that the light's bending around. Partially bending around.
The first issue is you making the presumption that the claim at first is correct and absolute.
Yeah.
And so that's why I said Alex isn't immediately wrong.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
said that the globe is. Oh, no, hold on.
50% of the ball is lit.
And then he had to correct you. So
The 90%
Because of the
number comes with
population, because
the
the
issue is
population
you're making
more
an
people.
argument against someone's argument instead of an argument for what is.
Well, yeah, what is known is that something like 90% of the world's population is in dilate, and they kind of stretch it based on astronomical twilight. But if you actually look at the projection of the Earth, if we look at the globe model, right, for those people at where they're located to also be in light and not just astronomical twilight, then the light has to actually cover more than half the ball. So you're going to have to claim the light bends around it, which don't worry. People have no problem claiming it. They claim whatever they need to. They'll claim that the light will bend all the way around a ball if they need to. Whenever I see mountains from hundreds of miles away, the light just bends around the globe. But that is what he's talking about. There's two different portions, right?
Well, do you
The
disagree that-
90% number is technically wrong if you present it as if it's physically impossible.
Speaking of that, I wanted to.
Did everybody see Ferguson's face there? It's like everything just went completely over his head on what Austin just said. Like he had no rebuttal. It didn't look like there was any processing taking place there. And not only that, but notice how the post hoc fallacy, where it just so happens that the light bends and it just ends up exactly what it would look like on a flat plane. Not a different number, but it just so happens it's it's just exactly what it would appear on a flat plane. That's the amount that it bent. I mean, the level of goofery knows no bounds here. But look at his face. It's like maybe there's an attempt to process, but there's just nothing going on there. I mean, look at that. There's just nothing going on. It looks like maybe he's trying, but the capacity's just not there. He's just got too many stickers on the laptop. That's where the capacity went. Into buying these stickers and applying them on the laptop, there's no capacity left to actually process basic logic. It's just not there. Look at his face. It's not there. Like, he's just not capable of having any kind of scientific or logical discussion in any way without appealing to faith and fallacy. And even then, he can't even appeal to faith and fallacy that well. Like, goofs like Craig can appeal to faith and fallacy better than Ferguson here.
If you present it as if it's physically impossible.
Speaking of that, I wanted to answer your question about Michigan. Okay. So Joshua in the wiki, you familiar with him?
Yeah, of course.
He's the guy that takes the pictures.
Yeah.
All right. So I have a big section about that in the book here. He only does it in April and May.
Okay.
Okay. Why is that?
Well, I guess the weather's better. There's
Well, the weather's changing. Okay. So the water keeps the temperature for a longer period of time than the air does.
Okay.
Okay. So we're just coming out of winter.
Mm-hmm.
The water's cold. The air starts warming up.
Yes.
As soon as that air starts warming up, you're going to get light refraction.
Yeah. So you say it's just all refraction.
Well, that's
you think it's a mirage, though?
Do I think it's a mirage?
I mean,
And again, coincidentally, the refraction just so happens to match flat Earth observation. It's flat plane. I mean, that's what the coincidence theorists here. I mean, the chance that it all matches perfectly. I mean, you're talking, again, everything from eclipses, the sun and the moon match up. That's why, if this is all some kind of weird simulation, that would almost make more sense than the heliocentric globe theory, regardless of the actual shape of the Earth. But if this was some kind of just software with rendering a particular way, I mean, also Sungenis, like, it seems like does he not know about the existence of waves or haze? I also haven't heard him mention true horizon versus apparent horizon, because those are all critical factors here. So I bring this up all the time, too. I mean, does Sungenis even know the difference between apparent and true horizon? Is he one of these goofs that think train tracks touch in the distance because they look like they touch? And of course, let's not forget, for some reason, a lot of globe earthers, they just have a really tough time with the concept of waves. So if waves block a boat that's right in front of you, that's directly in front of you, but somehow much larger waves further in the distance wouldn't block the bottom of buildings or boats. I mean, this is flat out mental disability at this point, right? I mean, how can people not know waves exist? So if waves block a boat 2 feet in front of your face, the bottom of the boat, why would there be an expectation that the waves wouldn't block the bottom of anything in the distance? Just the level of gophery here. I can't even believe we're going into this, but this is so tough. How much gophery can one man take? Should that be the new tagline of Mindshock Logical Analyses? Flat Bob says, I have window stickers. Do those count? Big Pine Sailing says, they say how many bumper stickers you have on your car are proportional to your aggression levels. Even if those bumper stickers are peace love, etc., maybe it's the same on laptops. I used to be quite aggressive driving in my younger years, but I didn't have any stickers. But yeah, I mean, look at Sungenis' face here. I mean, I really don't know what's going on. I think he just got triggered due to ego, because obviously Austin understands all these concepts, physics, everything way better than he does. And I think he just can't handle it, because he's so much older. It's just, you know, the old man pride thing.
Basically, wouldn't that be? We're not actually looking at it. We're
Mirage,
looking at
illusion,
it.
whatever. The reason you're seeing Chicago skyline is because the light beam is being curved by the refraction due to the temperature difference between the water and the air.
Do you know about the Flying Dutchman?
No Dutch Bros coffee. I don't know the flying.
Are you familiar with the Flying Dutchman?
Tobacco.
Is that a boat?
The ship that was
Yeah.
So they would see ships flying above the water.
Yeah.
In the during the colonial period.
It takes Tim Pool to bring him. I don't even know if he's going to say the words apparent or true horizon, but obviously he's talking about mirages and the flying ships, because obviously the ship's not actually flying. But the true horizon is not the apparent horizon. Also, what I'm surprised Austin didn't bring this up, the infrared. So there's no refraction with infrared. Or you know, in these colder climates with frozen lakes, like I think they did a laser test at Lake Baikal in Russia, with again no curvature. So I would like to hear his cope on that one, because he was desperately grasping a temperature differential between the ocean and the air. But what about at Lake Baikal with the frozen lake and the laser test, and of course all the infrared? So, I mean, I'm surprised Austin didn't bring it up, because I genuinely want to hear his reaction to that. He'd probably just say, oh, well, and then shrug, like he did with the other things, but...
And the legend emerged of the Flying Dutchman ghost ship.
Yeah.
It's just refraction of light made it appear that it was higher than it really was.
And sometimes they
really-
go upside down.
Yeah, but really what happens in those is actually the boat doesn't just get lifted, because the water would have to get lifted too, right? Because there's light coming off the water. It's actually that there's like a reflective inferior situation that happens for Fata Morgana. It actually it reflects down, so it creates a mirror effect, so it makes it look like it's up in the sky, but it's actually not. I don't dispute optical effects. What I do dispute is just assuming that the sphere is a certain size, therefore it must bend this certain amount, because I went to that Chicago location, and there were wildfires in the west, coincidentally, so I couldn't see anything. Like, you couldn't even see like a mile. But I talked to all the locals. They said you see it throughout the year. They said it's very frequent, certainly at sunset, that you see Chicago. So it isn't just those couple months or anything. It happens regularly.
Who thinks that Sungenis is going to respond to Austin's statement there? Like, let's say that's true if you can. I mean, I don't live in Chicago, so I don't really know. Is anybody in the chat from Chicago? Can you really see it frequently? I mean, I didn't know if it was just those months. I mean, obviously visibility is different throughout the year. It's called the visibility index. Something a lot of heliocentrists struggle with, but Welcome Dave Scott in the chat. Dave Scott, the man who defeated Chuck Norris. We need to have like special what should we call them, like tags or something for members, where you could have like a tagline underneath there, and Dave Scott should have the man who defeated Chuck Norris. Flat Bob says, the thing that irks me about refraction is that it would have to refraction the light exponentially, which is a ridiculous notion. A lot of those refraction claims, they're just they're post hoc fallacies. So I mean, it's almost like there's no reason to go deeper. I mean, we can, but I mean, if it's that fallacious, like, why even? And again, Sungenis completely ignoring infrared, completely ignoring frozen lakes, completely ignoring everything, basically. He kind of cherry-picked that, too, another fallacy, and red herringed it. Because, yes, there is temperature differential, which causes haze effects, etc. But and he also didn't mention true horizon versus apparent horizon. But what Austin was trying to explain is that refraction could lift the image, right? So it could, for example, like this on the screen, like in a Fata Morgana mirage, what's already there is lifted higher on the horizon. That doesn't mean it magically pulls something that's around the alleged curve of the alleged globular Earth and pulls it into view. That's not how refraction works. So again, it's just a fundamental failure to even understand the basics. Like, for example, let's say, like, if there was some kind of refraction of this boat that's close by, it could make the boat appear higher in the horizon, but it's not going to magically lift the boat from behind the wave. So even on a Fata Morgana mirage, you see that sailboat there? You're never going to see the absolute bottom of the boat because it's obscured. Refraction is not going to magically unobscure. It simply lifts what is there. So, yeah, okay. Oh, Big Pine Sailing says, I lived in Chicago from 2002 to 2009. You can see the Sears Tower from very far away, but I lived in the city, so I didn't go across the lake too much. Oh, yeah, my bad. It wouldn't be people who lived in Chicago. It would be people who lived across that would be able to see Chicago. Sarah says, hi, Bruce, just got here. It snowed at my house. That's cool. Matari Sensei says, Sungenis is realizing how outclassed he is. I mean, he's getting completely demolished here. And Ferguson is at least smart enough to keep his mouth shut for most of it. Well, actually, I don't know. I shouldn't say smart enough. It seems like he can't process any of this, so there's not much to say. I think that might be more accurate. But yeah, Sungenis is getting just absolutely demolished here. I mean, and what's kind of sad is you would think Sungenis would understand the scientism claims here. Yes, I'm not claiming that's true. This is, of course, Mindshot. I do not claim anything is true or untrue. The motto here, of course, is the only thing we know for sure is that we don't know anything for sure. Yeah, Justin Johnson says, not only does it pull it over the curve, but it puts it at eye level every time as if the Earth were flat. Yes. It just so happens, I mean, coincidentally, the numbers just happen to add up. What a coincidence. Just like the sun and the moon just coincidentally are the perfect size and distance further to line up to the degree in an eclipse, to the degree. I mean, you're talking about winning the lottery like every single day of your life, and then we could approach that level of, not even approach that level of coincidence. So yeah. Again, just my theory here. I think if Austin Witsit were a lot older, Sungenis wouldn't be as triggered. That's just based on, again, anecdotal fallacy on my part, just based on my experience in examining older individuals that got ego triggered by younger individuals who were much smarter than them.
And then there is an observation that you can predict years in advance, every year, 2 days a year. I think it's in September and February, in Canigou, right, in France. You can see the Canigou Mountains from a distance that should be impossible just using geometry on a globe. And based on that time of year, the sun sets behind the mountains and creates a silhouette. And you can guarantee see those mountains line of sight directly in front of you on that specific day. You can book your flight right now, unless it's like crazy.
Yeah, but
fog
you
or
know
something.
what?
He has to
The
assume that there's no
theory was
refraction
true.
for that.
The Flying Dutchman crew upgraded their ship to a cargo freighter.
Did you guys hear what Sungenis just said? You can't assume there's no refraction. Shifting the burden of proof logical fallacy. That was like the mother of all shifting a burden of proof fallacies. Well, you can't assume there's no simulator programmer changing the rendering of the horizon. You can't assume that there's no software programmer on the universe that designed it. You can't assume that there's no. Oh, the level of gophery of Sungenis. You can't assume that there's no. And not only that, not only the false dichotomy fallacy, as if refraction, if there were refraction, it can only magically make it look like the Earth were flat. There can't be any other amount of refraction. So the refraction couldn't partially change where the mountain, it can only make it look like as if it were a flat plane. Otherwise, there's no refraction. I mean, these stacked fallacies here. I mean, Sungenis is firmly in the territory of Ferguson and Craig here. I mean, this is crazy stuff here.
If your theory was correct, you should be able to get something as powerful as the Hubble Space Telescope, point it toward California, and you should be able to see some structure in California.
Oh, he went full retard. He went full retard. So, if the Earth were flat, that means precipitation can't exist. It just can't. There can't be any amount of precipitation in the air. Like, fogs would never exist if the Earth were... According to Sungenis here, if the Earth were flat, if this theory is correct, there's just no precipitation. The visibility index would always not only be perfect, it would just always be perfect. There'd just be no precipitation in the atmos. Zero. According to Sungenis. Look at his face. He's kind of saying it with a straight face. Oh, it's kind of hard to have any respect left for Sungenis. He just went full retard. Like, absolutely full retard. Fog cannot exist on a flat Earth, according to Sungenis. There just can't be any water in the atmos if the Earth were flat. I mean, have none of these goofs ever even seen a weather report with visibility indices? Like, every day has a different visibility index. You can't even see 5 feet in front of your face in a dense fog, yet somehow magically a telescope would see a structure thousands and thousands of miles away. I mean, wow, I thought Sungenis was bad before. He just, I mean, even, I don't know, Ferguson hasn't said anything that stupid yet. I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, it's just so weird. Like, you would think these people have heard of fog or rain or just visibility indices. Like, have they never gone to the beach on a somewhat foggy day just to see the difference? It's just weird. It's just weird. I mean, at this point, I think Sungenis has went full retard more than Ferguson. Big Pine Sailing says, I love these straw man stories people make up when all cognized up. It's not even a straw man because they never, the other side never made these claims about precipitation or fog or visibility. He just hallucinated that out of the thin air. It's like, this is just straight up hallucinating. Because, like, a straw man is usually based in something plausible. I mean, I guess not always, but it just, like, this has nothing to do, because that's not even plausible in any way. Like, a straw man is obviously an argument someone never made, but nobody would even make that argument. Like, I mean, I would say that's pretty far from a straw man, because nobody would even make that argument, right? Like, oh, if the Earth was flat, we would see forever. But that's not even, nobody would even attempt to make that argument. So it's just, yeah, it's really weird. It's really weird. It's just a fundamental lack of just basic mental capacity. Because if we're looking at it logically, objectively, and neutrally, like, I know Sungenis can't do that, Ferguson can't do that. I don't know, maybe Tim Pool can do that. Tim Pool has been far less fallacious than Sungenis. Isn't that crazy? Tim Pool here has been less fallacious than Sungenis, a pioneer against the cult of scientism and the Copernican principle. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? But I mean, Sungenis is taking the cake here. I mean, he's kind of dumber than Ferguson. I mean, Ferguson is dumb. I guess it's because, again, this might be bias on my part, because I expected Sungenis to have some kind of cognitive function. Because how can you not have cognitive function and understand the Copernican principle, issues with scientism, and legitimately be a geocentrist? Like, don't you need at least a little bit of cognitive function to be a geocentrist? I mean, I don't know. Or is he just that triggered by a young guy completely upstaging him? And because Austin Witsit knows more about both geocentrism and all of these various facets of physics than Sungenis in far less study time. So, I mean, I think it just might be flat out ego triggered. I mean, Sungenis is just ego triggered here. Justin Johnson says Tim the Tool. Tim the Tool Man Taylor. You just reminded me of Tim Allen. We need Tim Allen on this panel. How awesome would it be to have Tim Allen on this panel? I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I'm gonna say Tim Allen would be less fallacious than both Sungenis and Ferguson. Oh man, has Tim Allen ever spoken on Flat Earth? Hold on, let me double check here. I genuinely want Tim Allen's thoughts on Flat Earth. I want this coke dealer turned comedian's thoughts on Flat Earth. I mean, Flat Earth is kind of popular. A lot of celebrities have touched upon it. He has a new show out now, doesn't he, too? Alright, let's see here. Okay, that's kind of interesting. So there is... Apparently, there's some kind of video... I don't know why it gave me that search result. Yeah, they threw up Flat Earth, the biggest lie of all, and Tim Allen came up and is a tag in it, but see, William Shatner joked about Flat Earth. Tim Allen, I don't see. Well, actually, I totally forgot. Tim Allen voiced Buzz Lightyear. So I don't know, what would his thoughts on Flat Earth be? Would that be kind of, because can Buzz Lightyear exist in a Flat Earth universe? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, we need a Tim Allen flat Earth interview. Oh wow, Ethan W. Where have you been? Ethan W. in the chat saying Tim Allen is flat, according to Dave Weiss, who outed him in a podcast cryptically. Huh. That's interesting. Big Pine Sailing says Tim Allen rides that white lightning too. Ethan W. back in action, baby. Oh man, that's crazy. Matari Sensei says, remember the sound Tim used to make on his show? Is that the one? Man, I haven't seen that show in so many years. Oh man, that show used to be on all the time. The 90s. What a time to be alive. I mean, look at Sungenis' face here, though. Matari Sensei says that's what he'd be saying to Sungenis. Oh, man. Hold on, I gotta get that exact sound now. Hold on.
He has
It was
refraction
true.
for that.
The Flying Dutchman crew upgraded their ship to a cargo freighter.
If your theory was correct, you should be able to get something as powerful as the Hubble Space Telescope, point it toward California, and you should be able to see some structure in California.
we gotta add that to the usual rotation now. Yeah, that's added to the rotation. That's the perfect response to what Sungenis just said. Okay, that's permanently added to the rotation of sound effects. Oh man. Does anybody know if Tim Allen actually ever does that in interviews? Because I've seen a few of his interviews. I mean, many years ago, but he's never kind of done that. But that's great. That's so great. All right, so now we gotta add that. So all right, let's continue here. For some reason, I'm thinking that's not the last time we'll hear that sound effect here. Matari Sensei says that's like the sound in my head that I hear when people say stupid stuff. That is pure brilliance on the part of Tim Allen, though. He also had quite a wide diversity of grunts.
No.
Why not?
I'll explain it. So like we'll actually use the Canigou explanation because it works perfectly. So before the sun goes behind Canigou, you can't see the mountains. You can't see them. You could only see the mountains once the sun gets behind it. Now, a lot of people would take that picture and say, see, this proves the globe. The mountains below the curve of the earth. But then the sun gets behind it, you can see the mountains. The reason you can't see the mountains at first is because of attenuation, right? That the light gets absorbed by the medium and it can't make it to you. Once the sun gets behind it, now the intensity of light is so much greater, it can actually make it through the medium, right? So the rate of attenuation is not going to affect the image as much and you're able to see it. Now, even in the globe paradigm, you would have to admit that. You would have to now say at just 150 miles, I can't see mountains that are in front of me because light gets attenuated and absorbed into the medium. So this idea that you can see,
I have no problem with that.
so you couldn't see across the world. The telescope doesn't actually fight attenuation, right? Like we can see stars because we're looking up through the thinnest part of the atmosphere. And even there, we actually have 1 to 2 degrees. We have almost a whole degree that we can't really know.
Well, what's the farthest you think the Hubble telescope can see through atmosphere of the Earth?
Okay, so Sungenis said, I have no problem with that. What does that mean? So did he just see the point about Mount Canigou? So he has no problem with that it's not refraction? What does that mean? Is Sungenis pulling a Ferguson where he doesn't even know his own position anymore? Justin Johnson says that's gonna get used a lot in the near future. Just a prediction. Oh man. Well, hold on. That doesn't necessarily deserve the grunt, because I mean, I don't even know. Like, we need a little more clarification from Sungenis here.
You mean like laterally, like horizontally? Yeah. Oh man, I don't know. It would few hundred miles because we see a few hundred miles regularly. And Mount Wilson, you know, if you got a higher elevation,
how could you prove a flat Earth then if you can only see a couple hundred miles?
A few.
You can't prove flat Earth because you can only see a couple hundred miles. Well, by that logic, you couldn't prove a sphere Earth either, right? I mean, that was definitely deserving of the grunt. I mean, Sungenis has gone complete full vegetable. I mean, you can't prove anything because you can only see a couple hundred miles. So does that mean... Does that mean the sun isn't more than a couple hundred miles? That means you can't prove anything about anything if you can only see a couple hundred miles. Wow. I mean, he's just getting dumber. Look at Austin's face. He doesn't even understand. He doesn't even know what he's dealing with here with Sungenis. I mean, even Ferguson. I don't know if Ferguson can say something dumber than that. I mean, maybe he can. I mean, let's not sleep on Ferguson, but I mean, this is crazy. This is really, really crazy. You can't prove anything if you can only see a couple hundred miles. Wow. I mean, there's no such thing as infrared goggles. There's no such thing as any kind of zoom technology. Wow. I mean, this is crazy. I was not expecting this from Sungenis. I mean, this is wild.
A few hundred. I mean, we have observations in planes with infrared where we've seen, 5, 6.
Within that range of 200 miles, would Hubble be able to see a sublimation of the Chicago skyline?
It's all based on the attenuation of the atmos. It's always going to be based on the atmos. The light gets absorbed. The Canigou proves
it. So your answer is how light's affected, right?
Yeah,
That's what my answer to him
but
was.
You're claiming it's bending at a certain rate. I'm just saying that light's attenuated.
Okay, so I'll say it's attenuated and it's bending.
He's not even trying anymore. It's attenuating in its bending. He's not even trying anymore. I mean, he can't even fake being good faith now. Well, that would be ad hoc, an ad hoc fallacy. In magical cases, like, it just magically works this way to make it work. So it's post hoc and ad hoc. Let's just double them up. It's magically doing that sometimes, but not other times. Oh, man. Justin Johnson was correct. The Tim Allen grunt is not going anywhere.
I can actually.
How does that prove a flat Earth?
What? What is he talking about? What is this guy talking about? It's not even so much about proving a flat Earth. It's just the issues with these the visibility beyond the claims of a globe. For example, it could be a much larger globe, right? Could also be that. But this goof is so triggered by flat Earth, he's just framing everything within flat Earth. Man, Tim Allen's getting a workout here with this guy.
Well, it doesn't. I can prove. Well, yeah, but you have to prove it, right? Like, you can prove the rate at which it attenuates based on the actual medium, based on the turbulence, the turbidity, you know, and the actual.
Okay, so you have
density of the medium.
third-party factors affecting how the light comes into your I-beam.
How far it can get to you from.
Okay, so how does that prove flat Earth?
Oh, because we can make observations consistently, predict them in the future from hundreds of miles away, where the mountain should be miles at times, up to 2 miles below Earth curvature. I can book a flight.
How could you prove that if light's attenuated and it bends?
This is really tough. Luckily, we don't have that much more here. This is the end, so I'm gonna power through to make it to the end here, however painful it is. So he's saying, so if you make the post hoc ad hoc a given and not fallacies, then how would it prove that? That's his question. Sprinkle in some shifting the burden of proof and some red herrings, and you got Sungenis' argument. Wow. So, I mean, this is just crazy. So Sungenis is saying that no matter what, the light is going to magically cause anything that would be beyond the curve to magically not be on the curve. Therefore, that doesn't prove flat Earth. That's his argument. So, no actual substance whatsoever, just faith and fallacy. And a fundamental misunderstanding of just basic science. Just invoking ad hoc and post hoc fallacies is not science. He's just magically saying it's going to come up to whatever you see, no matter what. And he's just going to call it bending attenuation or whatever. That's rough. I mean, this is one of the dumbest arguments I've ever heard. And that's saying something from after Craig's debates.
Well, the light attenuation is just proven by the fact you can't see the mountains till the sun sets behind it.
That
right?
means it's something, the light's being affected somehow, right?
The light is being affected? I mean, is he even trying to appear intellectually honest at this point? Flat Bob says, I'm going to start calling it ham hock fallacy. Dave Scott asks, are we sure he can tie his own shoes? I don't understand how this guy became a geocentrist. I really don't. If the mental capacity is this non-existent to not know about precipitation or visibility indices, I mean, how did this guy ever get to the point of being a geocentrist? I mean, this is crazy.
It's being absorbed by the medium. Once the sun gets behind, the sun's so much brighter that it makes it through the medium. But you're claiming that it's bending and that I can book my flight right now.
You don't believe
go
in
see
light
that
reflection?
mountain. Yeah,
Light refraction.
I do believe in refraction.
You believe
but
temperature can cause light refraction?
in a singular medium, it can have effects. You can label it as refraction, but Snell's law is based on two medium, and this word's just thrown around. It's just thrown around. No one can show this in a lab.
Wait,
I keep asking, show me an equation, because according to you...
Wait a minute. My question was, do you believe light refraction can be caused by temperature difference between water and air?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can't discount light refraction like we're just making this up.
Okay, now we're firmly in strawman territory. Nobody's claiming that refraction doesn't exist, but refraction is not going to magically pull everything to exact flat Earth expectation. And it's weird. It's like the cognitive function's just not there. The mental capacity to understand this basic point is just not there. Unless Flat Bob is saying intentionally dishonest. In which case, so Flat Bob, are you saying that he does have the mental capacity to understand the point that refraction is not going to magically just pull things that are out of view to eye level on the horizon consistent with a flat plane, not to a different position, but to a position consistent with a flat plane only to that? Refraction can only magically work to that. It can't work to anything else. Big Pine Sailing says ham hock fallacy when you forget to put the ham hock in your white beans and you throw it in the end instead of the beginning. Okay. Well, let's do a poll. Who thinks Sungenis is being intentionally dishonest, or he's just dumb? Okay, the poll is up. Let's see what everybody thinks. Big Pine Sailing says, yeah, it's a cognitive dissonance thing. It seems just swinging to try and end the argument by arguing nonsense. It's not intentional, it's reflexive. Yeah, but the thing is, when you bring it to such a basic point, like denying the existence of precipitation, that's rough. Flat Bob says he understands the argument, he just doesn't want his work to be discredited by objective reality. But here's the thing, does it really discredit his work? It kind of just adds a because all his work is consistent with a geocentric flat plane. All his exposing of the scientism cult would still be accurate. Dave Scott says, yet another episode of Dunning-Kruger Comedy Stylings brought to you by the Velcro Shoes Club. Okay, so far 100% of people are actually saying Sungenis is mentally capable. And he's being dishonest. I'm not 100% sure, actually. I'm really not. Flat Bob says his work involves a spherical Earth, though. It does. But I mean, the bulk of it is mostly geocentric. The fact he's basically arguing the Earth doesn't move; everything's moving around the Earth. So all of that would still be valid. Because I mean, yeah, I don't know. 14% too triggered to answer. 86% are saying he is mentally capable. So far, 0% are saying he's being He's honestly dumb. Interesting. I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to tell. I don't know. I really don't know. It's pretty tough. Pretty tough. Let's continue.
No,
Right?
no, not when properly define what refraction means. But to every time to say, I know this amount of refraction's happening without looking at the variables and without actually making the measurements of the temperature gradients, the density gradients, and just saying it must be curving this amount because my presupposed sphere.
We don't say that, as a matter of fact. As a matter of fact, if you look at the Chicago skyline photos, they're all different. Some show buildings coming higher up out of the water. Some show buildings that are thinner than they really are.
Wait, so again, he doesn't know that waves have different heights on different days? Oh man, or obviously haze could slightly affect the visuals, but again, he missed the point completely. The skyline is still being magically pulled from beyond the alleged curvature. And then obviously there's some visual artifacting and effects that take place just due to, again, even just a basic haze will cause things to appear slightly different than they actually are. Nobody's arguing that. That's another straw man. So he pretended that Austin was strawmanning while strawmanning himself.
Some show more color, others are gray. Every time you take a picture of the Chicago skyline, it's different. Why?
Yeah.
Because you get different attenuation, you get different refraction, all kinds of things are different every single day.
Sure, but when it's clearer outside, we see further. And your paradigm...
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, but you have to claim when it's clearer outside, that's when there's the most refraction. Because when it's clear outside, we're seeing the furthest.
Clear
right?
has nothing to do with how much the light's refract.
Well, if it's...
I mean, this guy just went full vegetable. Like, no matter how much refraction there is, are you ever gonna see London from New York? Are you ever gonna see it? Like, why is there never enough refraction for that? Why is there never enough refraction for all these other infinite scenarios that never happen? Like, where's the refraction in those cases, right? Where is it?
the conditions of the medium that are supposedly refracting it, then
the temperature is the cause. Okay.
Okay, and
Because it makes the air thinner or thicker.
One more thing before we wrap up here. The horizon in a globe is like this physical edge of a sphere, right? It's blocking things. It's a physical location. It's geometric. As in, on a globe, there's a physical location called the horizon blocking things in the distance.
That's an apparent horizon.
Wait, is it physical or apparent?
No, you see an apparent horizon because refraction's always there. You're not living in a vacuum.
So you...
So that was interesting. So Ferguson actually said something that was true. We're not in a vacuum. Okay, well, obviously nobody said we were. But he did say something interesting. There's always a certain amount of refraction. It's ever present. It doesn't magically bring stuff that would be beyond the curve. Also, he has, again, in true Ferguson form, he was too brain dead to know the difference between the true horizon and the apparent horizon. But he did know what the apparent horizon was, which is interesting. I mean, Ferguson's actually not looking as dumb as Sungenis here, but this is just such a crazy one.
You have no evidence of this physical one. You have to assume it's there. We see the horizon goes up and down, moves all over. We can see from 100 miles away. Consistently, I can shoot lasers over frozen lakes, different colors, different heights, even if they're different distances, they'll stay the same height over frozen lakes.
I've seen-
I can see specular reflections over great distances. If the surface was convex or concave, you wouldn't see that. And there are many, all the evidence shows, and just saying the word refraction isn't a get out of jail card of all the physical evidence that consistently shows we can see way beyond the curve. You have to prove there's a physical hill in front of me blocking things, and there's simply not. I can shoot radar through it.
So I've witnessed a Falcon 9 landing on the drone ship. You know how they land on the boat in the water? Mm-hmm. Just after they were doing a Dragon test and they accidentally blew up one of their Dragon capsules, they couldn't land at the landing zone because they had debris all over it. So they brought the drone ship in real close to shore, 17.8 miles offshore. So I was able to witness this Falcon 9 landing on the drone ship. The engines are very bright. You know?
What does this have to do with anything?
As this thing's landing, and I'm watching it obscured by the horizon as it's landing 17.8 shore.
Obscured by the horizon or obscured by waves? Would anybody be surprised if Ferguson doesn't know what waves are? Or that waves obscure things that are right in front of you because they're waves. They rise above the rest of the water. Wow. Wow. I mean, this is crazy. Big Pine Sailing says, I think he's just going to assert standard refraction as being a constant law and not just an average or assumption, essentially. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, though. Regardless of whatever, let's assume all that's true. It's still not going to, because it's ever present with fluctuating conditions, sure. But if it really could pull things from beyond the horizon, I mean, you would be seeing it in non-flat Earth matching observations. And that's kind of the main point that's lost on a lot of these goofs.
The bottom 2/3 of the rocket were blocked. According to the globe, that's what I should have seen with refraction accounted for. So yes, refraction's a part of it. Also, it had a nice specular highlight across the Atlantic Ocean coming up to me that was very visible. So if it's not curved, why can I see a specular highlight? And then if it's not curved, why is the bottom 2/3 of the rocket blocked after it lands?
You can see specular reflection. It's because that requires a flat surface. And
if it's flat, then why is it blocked by the lower 2/3 of the rocket?
So you made a false claim about the specular reflection that only works on a flat surface because you get a diffuse reflection if it's convex concave. But the horizon's apparent. It rises up.
I mean, Austin is just so polite in his evisceration here. Because Ferguson doesn't, I mean, Ferguson's obviously using a lot of terms he doesn't even know the definitions of. And Austin is being so polite in his eviscerations. I mean, hats off to Austin for being able to do that.
And the most dense part of the atmos is the bottom, the most dense. So that's going to block the most things from the bottom. Now, you said you accounted for refraction. You did not measure the density and temperature and then put it in a refractive equation and determine how much should be missing. What you did was notice that it didn't match the globe. And then you had to add refraction because you saw too much of the rocket. It should have been more blocked. You assumed, oh, it must be lifted up behind the curve, and it's actually an illusion.
No, I recorded what the temperature was that day. Anyway, so the bottom 2/3 of the rocket.
How does recording the temperature mean you actually did refraction calculations? And again, did he account for the existence of waves or no? Because if how much on a globe Earth, how much, again, this has nothing to do with obviously the shape of the Earth because waves exist. This is just a tough concept for people like Ferguson. So, given that waves exist in reality, why wouldn't the bottom of anything be obscured? Like, this is so basic. Like, children, even children in school, you know that game kids play where they put their fingers together to squash people, like possibly the teacher in school? Because if you put your fingers in front of your eye, even though your fingers are tiny, they're going to be bigger than entire humans that are standing further away. I mean, this is just basics, but Ferguson can't grasp it. So obviously, waves closer to you are going to block a large portion, even though the waves are relatively small compared to whatever you're looking at on the horizon. Because the waves are closer to you, they're going to block more of a much larger object, like a building or a rocket or whatever. But Ferguson's just this mentally gone. He doesn't even understand what waves are. I mean, it's crazy.
Rocket was blocked, and the bottom part of the rocket's where all the flame is. That's the hottest, brightest part of it. So why am I able to see this dim little part at the top, but not the bright part of the flame at the bottom? And I'm getting specular highlights and reflections off the water that's supposedly flat, yet it's blocking the 2/3 bottom part of the rocket.
Can I
Last
go
thing I want
on
to ask
to
you,
another
Witsit,
one?
before we wrap up,
You
though.
claiming bottoming up obstructions impossible on a flat Earth? So
you
just,
haven't
like,
explained it. That's
you're
for sure.
entirely new to this.
But here's the thing I want to ask you, Witsit, before we wrap up, is you're going to Antarctica for TFE, right? And I applaud you for taking up that offer. So what are you expecting to see? I want to know what you're expecting to see. Are you expecting to see the sun set in Antarctica, or are you not? And if so, why?
I have no idea. I don't actually have an expectation. I don't know. That's why I'm going.
And you can tell this is a foreign concept to scientism cultists like Ferguson. Like, he's so religious. He needs to believe something, anything. He needs to bootlick some kind of priests. He just can't stand there being something unknown. Like, he has to pretend that it's known. That's the cult of scientism and authority worship. That's their safety blanket of these mentally weak humans that can't handle things being unknown or not as reported in the mainstream. Not as reported in the Rockefeller textbooks or on the idiot box. They just can't handle it. So, like, the mental capacity's not there, the mental strength's not there. Like, he was looking for some kind of a religious, because if you're not his religion, he was expecting Austin to give some other religious answer, because it's just a foreign concept, being logical, objective, neutral, scientific. These are just foreign concepts to goofs like Ferguson.
What if the Earth is flat, but like that?
That's the smartest thing I have ever heard Tim Pool say. I mean, he didn't know the word. Convex. I bring this up all the time. If the Earth is a convexing plane, you would still see curvature. And it would not be a globe. Man, brownie point for Tim Pool. Brownie point for Tim Pool. Should we have the approval grunt from Tim Allen? Because he's got the incredulous grunt that we used. So do we have the approval grunt? Let me see if I can find Tim Allen's approval grunt. I actually found a whole compilation of Allen grunts, and they're all different. So no, that was just me. That was just me searching for grunts. So for the for the next Q&A, we're gonna have to unveil all the different grunts. There's like 20 of them, and they're all distinct. But let's try to finish this up.
I mean, like, does that work for you?
No, I think it would be a bowl, if anything, like a basin. The ocean, right, is got up to.
Then wouldn't you see the sun all the time?
Well, it just gets so far away you can't see it. As to what's going to happen in Antarctica, I don't know. Like that's why I want to go, is because
If it gets far away, it would get smaller, not
well,
just go down.
Well, technically, it actually does get smaller. Even in the globe paradigm, it gets smaller. It actually changes to noon and should change again. That's never been measured. But
How do you explain the sunset?
it's just like the streetlights, right? So like as it moves away, it looks like it goes down, and then it gets so far beyond you can't see it through the air anymore, right? It goes beyond that point. The horizon's apparent. It gets behind the convergence point. Just like railroads converge, if you flipped them on their side, that would be like the sky and the ground. That's what perspective does. And even in the globe paradigm, they claim like when you see the sunset, it's actually not there.
But you're arguing that like the sunset is vanishing point.
Well, yeah, it gets beyond the you could say quote unquote vanishing point. Sure, it gets beyond the limit of your vision, the apparent horizon. It gets beyond the convergence point.
Is that because it's only 27 miles in diameter?
I don't make any claims as to the size, but I will say you can prove this. Sometimes the sun disappears above the horizon, and even when it disappears above the horizon at sunset, it has a perfect horizontal line cutting off the bottom of it. So how's that work? If it's the curve of the Earth, right? But it's not. It's because there are horizontal layers of atmosphere. The sun moves beyond it, and so all the evidence shows the Earth.
Will you
is-
be willing to admit that the Earth is round if you go to Antarctica, and it looks round?
Well, I don't see it looks round.
What looks round? If Antarctica looks round? Man, Sungenis really disappointed here, man. What a goof. What a goof.
I mean, I'm gonna take an infrared camera, and I'm gonna probably see 100, 200 miles in the plane. So Antarctica, the only way it would prove it is if I could fly over the South Pole, pop back up on the other side. I'm very interested in the observation. That's obviously why I'm going. It's 11 days. It's very inconvenient. I don't blame Alex for not going. So it's 11 days. It's super cold.
Alex is scared.
I am scared.
It's also kind of scary in a way, right? So, but we'll see what happens.
We're gonna wrap things up. This was a lot of fun. I love this. It was great to have these varying perspectives, all going at it. And so smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know. We got more coming up later today. YouTube.com/TimCastIRL tonight at 8 p.m. But we'll go around with final thoughts and shout outs. Alex, do you want to say anything before we wrap up?
Well, I just want to thank all you guys for participating in this. It's very nice for you guys to make time to come here. And there's just a lot of questions that are still unanswered, in my opinion. And just look into it. Don't believe anything I say, or Austin, or Bob, or Scott. Just look into it yourself, and then make whatever assumption you can from the evidence that you see.
Final thoughts?
I'd say don't believe him, believe me.
There you go.
Just
Well,
kidding.
don't believe me. I'm not a role model. I'm not. You don't want to be like me. I'm insane. I wear tuck-friendly bathing suits at city council meetings. My point is, do your research and look into it yourself.
Yeah. So I would just say this is hard stuff. It's hard. Science is hard. It's never easy. We have a lot of data. We have microscopes, telescopes, oscilloscopes that bring in all kinds of data. Connecting the dots and interpreting that data correctly, that's the hard part. And that's where we are right now.
Is there somewhere people can find you?
Yeah. So www.robertsungenis.org. And we have a science website also, journeytothecenteroftheuniverse.com.
All right. Sir, final thoughts? Anything to shout out?
Yeah, so I think the conversation is way more in depth than people realize, and I would just say, look into it. There's a philosophical bias to this idea that the Earth is special, and in the center it has philosophical implications, and just don't shy away from looking into it, because people will mock and ridicule you. The evidence is overwhelming that the Earth is stationary, thus in the center, and I would say it's overwhelming that it's actually a topographical plane. Just look into it, to each their own. And science is not about dogma, right? That's the death of knowledge. So you should be able to have like in intellectual discussion, disagreements, without freaking out. And yeah, you can find me Witsit Gets It on all platforms or witsit.tv.
All right. So I want to thank Witsit for inviting me to this debate. I had a good time. Thanks, Tim, for hosting this. You can find.
This goof had a good time being humiliated. Wow, is this one of these guys with humiliation fetishes? Or actually, I don't think he does though. He didn't seem to get sheer joy from being humiliated like Craig does. It might just be a lack of mental capacity where he didn't understand anything Austin said, so he had fun. You know, like one of these mentally disabled kids. You know, they always have fun. They don't know what's going on. Obviously, no offense intended there, but yeah, I mean, ignorance is bliss, right? You don't know what you don't know. So he might have not had the mental capacity to even realize he was completely eviscerated and destroyed on every level. I mean, look at his face. It looks like he doesn't. It looks like he didn't have the capacity to comprehend what happened to him. Dave Scott says, science is hard, we have a lot of data. I mean, it's definitely hard for Sungenis. He's having a lot of trouble.
Find me on YouTube, Astronomy Live. I develop, like I said, I do a lot of work developing rocket tracking software, satellite tracking software. I actually have to account for stellar aberration and doing that stuff too, which is kind of fun. So it's been great for me to sort of engage with ideas that I don't necessarily hold, but to be able to go out there and collect evidence yourself. And that's one of the things that I love about astronomy so much, is that it's so accessible and anyone can get involved and do it. You don't need a big expansive telescope to get started. And you can go out and investigate these things yourself and take your own measurements because, I mean, I now am happy and proud to be able to say that I've measured the size of the Earth myself. I've measured the distance of the sun myself.
Notice how he never said how he did that. Well, he kind of did a brief explanation where he just stacked fallacies and assumptions. So he presupposed either the radius of the Earth, he presupposed and assumed and hallucinated all the variables, and then he calculated off those hallucinations. And he thinks that's an accurate measurement. He thinks that's scientific. That's how far gone this goof is. He thinks hallucinations. A house of cards of hallucinations and assumptions is scientific measurement, according to this goof. I still have him as one of the top goofs. I mean, I don't know. I still have him as one of the top goofs. I think he might be dumber than Craig. I don't know.
And these are all things that anyone can do. If I can do it, anyone can do it. I'm not a professional astronomer. I'm just an amateur astronomer. I'm just a neuroscientist who loves playing astronomer at night. So thank you all.
Right on. Well, everybody, thanks so much for hanging out. Like I said, we'll be back at 8 p.m., youtube.com/TimCastIRL, and we will see you all then.
So, there you have it. There you have it. There's only one way to sum up this so-called debate. And after I do the intro, I will sum it up one more time. So, hope everybody enjoyed another logical analysis of Flat Earth debate on Mindshock. You can check out the entire playlist of Flat Earth logical analysis. It is its own separate playlist, so there will be the logical analyses of non-Flat Earth material, and then the Flat Earth logical analysis have their own playlist. And, yeah, so obviously logic and reason quickly going extinct, as many people have demonstrated in this very so-called debate. Tim Pool actually... It's kind of weird. He said some dumb stuff, but he also actually kind of came off somewhat level-headed as well. So, Yeah, kind of interesting. Anyway, if you want to help support the Mindshock podcast, help logic and reason return to a world where it is quickly going extinct, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like and share, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys next time.